Welcome everybody to our session of Fab Month. We have here a couple of guests that will be speaking to you today, and I would like to hand it over to Sherry for some opening remarks on what this entitles.
Thank you, Norella. This is kind of a new initiative, an experiment. The Fab Lab Network, as we know, usually meets once a year in person, and that's a fantastic opportunity to, exchange knowledge and learn about what each other is doing and learn about where the network is sort of headed. But once a year just really isn't enough, and so Norella and team have put together a wonderful month. I think we have 9 or 10 sessions this month, such that we can catch up on the great projects that are going on in the network and sort of join some of those projects if we want to. And it's really about, as we know, we're 2,700 labs or so. I think it's 2,780 labs in more than 135 countries. And, it's not really, though, about the machines. I mean, yes, we have machines and we do prototyping and we do technical innovation, but it's really about what we can do with that technical innovation to impact our communities and to help make the world a better place for all of us. And so, the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to talk about one of the great projects that both the Fab Lab Network and beyond have sort of gathered around because they feel it is very potentially impactful, and so so everyone's interested in participating and helping. And we have the leadership today, and a few people from the network, the Fab City Network, that are going to talk about the great work that they do. But this is the Fab City Global Initiative. Tomas Diez has been with this project since inception, and he is the head of the Fab City Foundation, which is part of the leadership that runs this whole initiative. He's just a longtime partner. He was at EAC before he was with Fab City Foundation, and he even helped us launch the first mobile Fab Lab in the U.S. When it went out to Burning Man way back when in 2007, I think. So Tomas has a long history in the Fab Lab Network and in leadership in this amazing project. Let me turn it over to you, Tomas, to talk about this great work.
Thank you very much, Sherry and Norella and all the Fab community. Thank you for allowing us to share what we're doing from the Fab City Global Initiative, which is, I think, it's a natural, I don't know to call it next step or kind of a natural organization movement that we understand it should arise from the Fab Lab Network, no? As you say, we're getting closer to 3,000 Fab Labs. I've been involved since we were like at 10 Fab Labs, and we always had the question like, not about what Fab Labs have inside, what kind of equipment and what they can prototype, but also the big question here is what Fab Labs can do for their context, no? What Fab Labs can do outside their walls. And it's not only about, I think like it goes beyond education and the programs, that amazing programs that like the Fab Academy, the educators program that is going on for supporting schools and all the amazing impact that Fab Labs have made in many universities in the world, transforming education. It's something that sometimes we don't account for. But it's also about Fab Labs engaging into probably a very challenging role in their context, which is putting the service, their knowledge and their capabilities in the service of transforming local communities, starting from a very, very small scale, what Fab Labs can do in their neighborhoods where they are located, to their districts, to entire, neighborhoods, cities, bioregions, entire states, and going to countries, and of course, at the scale of the planet, no? So this is, I think, like this has been like the main question around Fab cities, no? It's like really what Fab Labs can do to transform the way we live nowadays in cities, and also how we can help to transform dramatically the way in which we produce and consume the basic resources that are needed to keep humans in urban settlements, no? We can reduce these things to three main aspects. One is, humans need food, right? And then everything associated with food, you can say water, you need to have like a healthy land, technically, and so on. You need energy. So energy, basically, we need to heat, cook, move things around. So that's all energy. And then third, we need, let's say, things, if you call it, no? Things as can be technology, can be things that we don't need also, like most of the times it's a lot of things that are around us that we don't really need. But think about things as objects, devices that help us interface with our environment, no? So nowadays, if you look on how, those three things are made, these are processes that we have been doing as humans for centuries, right? And especially in the last 2 centuries, industrialization and optimization and the search for, fastest, cheaper way of making these three things, things, objects, energy, and food, has created a lot of backlashes that maybe at the scale in which we were, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, was difficult to see, right? Like at the collaterals of having the whole industrial complex was not so visible as it is today. So nowadays we're seeing that we're eating, a quite amount of microplastics per week. There's some, I don't know. I feel like we need to double check these facts, but very serious people claim that we eat, in average, like a 1 credit card worth of microplastics every week, right? I think it's quite a lot. Maybe it's once a month, but that's what we're talking about. And these microplastics, which before were say like, oh, it's in the fish, it's actually starting to be found in other places, no? Like in actual vegetables and other sorts of fruits. We're polluting our air, so we're breathing really bad air. I was living in Barcelona before, one of the most polluted cities in the world, the worst air quality that you can imagine. We're making our soil weaker, therefore we're making food with less nutrients, therefore we're making ourselves more vulnerable, therefore we depend more on synthetic drugs to fix our broken bodies that are that are actually broken but by what we eat. And then on top of that, we are putting a lot of brain power. If you look at Silicon Valley and in the concentration of the brightest minds in the world, we're putting a lot of brain power to make stupid technologies, to make people addicted, being hooked into a screen, right? So that's what we're doing today. So we're feeding ourselves with worse things. We're putting our brain power into creating useless stuff to make us more dependent on addictive technologies, and when you aggregate all of this, basically we are compromising our own future as a planetary spaceship, no? That is planet Earth. This is not new. This is people, like Carl Sagan, Lewis Mumford 100 years ago, Carl Sagan 50 years ago, really had very clear. We know this as a civilization since the 60s, 70s, 80s, and here we are, no? Here we're still, moving with this inertia towards collapse. So, I think what we're trying to do from Fab City is trying to address these issues, in a very naive way, in a very innocent way, I believe. I think that this is a common kind of delusion that we share all together, because you have to be delusional to think that it's possible to change this pattern. But I think like it was delusions that really triggered big changes in the world, no? And what is interesting nowadays is to see the scalability power that we have gained as a network, and the huge potential that we're gaining with every Fab Lab that is open, with every new city that is joining our network. It's just basically, I think the growth is exponential. And for me, it's like the potential impact that we can generate is exponential every year. And every year that we are not making it at its full potential is a year that we are wasting, no? So just to end up, I have to say that in talking about time, this year is the 10th anniversary since we announced the Fab City Pledge in Barcelona. I think some of you were there during Fab 10. The 6th of July of 2014, the mayor of Barcelona started a countdown for Barcelona to produce almost everything it consumes by 2054. Don't ask me why 40 years. It was a random number. But now this year is gonna be 30 years left towards that objective, no? And the interesting thing about this pledge is that every other city that has joined has followed also, which is another delusion, has been followed by other mayors of the city, no? So it's kind of we're constructing this collective delusion that it's possible to make cities to produce almost everything they consume locally. And I think we can make that closer to a reality as long as we're able to prototype a small scale, and as long as we are provide evidence at small scale, and as long as we also measure that this is possible to do, no? So I think with this, I have to say that, thank you, Fab Lab Network, for existing. This is exciting to share as many other times we share with the Fab Lab Network what Fab City is, but Fab City is part of the Fab Lab Network, is fundamentally linked. And I hope that Fab City becomes a platform to expand the impact of what we all do together. I don't see a division, a separation line between what we do, and simply we hope that in the next 30 years, again, this delusion is less delusional and more a reality, more like a reality. That's from my side.
Thank you, Tomas.
Thank you.
Those were so remarkable insights. And now we're going to continue with basically showcasing best practices and programs within the Fab City Global Initiative. And I want to hand that over to Annie. Annie, are you there?
So, hi everybody. I'm Annie from Montreal. I have a weird voice, sorry. I begin to have a cold, but hopefully everything's going to be okay. So I'm here to present a little bit what we've done in Montreal. We have going toward the Fab City movement for a few years now, and we have a few great projects. So first, who we are. So we're a Fab Lab. And we are also a nonprofit organization that is meant to democratize the technologies and to give access in a perspective of economic, cultural, and social. And in those spaces, we have, yes, a Fab Lab, but we have also a Manda Lab, which is a living lab that help us co-create with different kind of communities. And we are driving now the Fab City movement in Quebec and Canada. So that was three main element that it's taking in charge in different projects that help us a lot. And in the Fab City movement, well, at the beginning we were interesting, but in the 2021 we had the great opportunity to receive the Fab 16 and the Fab City Summit. That result into the Fab City Pledge for Montreal and another region in Quebec, which is the Bas-Saint-Laurent region. And during those events, yes, we received everybody and we were thinking about everything, but we were taking this opportunity to co-design and to co-create together. So we end up with 8 different recommendations that we use as topic to work on to create different projects or to, take different projects in the Fab Labs and redirect it in those areas. And a few years later, in 2023, we did it again, but this time a campus, a Fab City campus, And the goal was to connect all the Fab City in the Americas. So they have 17s at the time. And now we have this kind of direction of knowing what's in the territory and try to don't build new wheel for anything, but just to build on what's existing and to stick to partner that it's naturally that adopt an agile workflow. We think that when we go together and we have an agile and collaborative and a sharing approach, it's more likely that we work together, but it's easier also to tackle different projects with different topics. The Fab City, it's a way of open the door and to reinvent the world in a better place, right? We have this great opportunity of imagining what's going to be our world tomorrow. So if we do this, well, sometimes we need to change this up. And to do so, we were engaged and we do a lot of action in it, but there's still other knowledge in the world that we can benefit from. So we decide to participate in the MDDI. So maybe you heard it before. It's the Master in Design for Distributed Innovation. And this master was really a way of collecting the different knowledge and the best practices that is around the world, but also to develop a new perspective of different projects. Because yes, the Fab City, when you see it like that, you can do project on the territory, and then you have this methodology that's called full stack, but it's much more actually. You need to connect the different human and non-human stakeholders, for example, to create a local impact that it can be multiplied. So we were wondering, how can we create or, make different kind of things in the Fab Lab? So it could be small project, it could be educative program, it could be bigger project also. That, and be an active stakeholders in the prototype of the Fab City, because the goal is nobody have the answer, right? We need to prototype the Fab City to just see if it's work or not. And we have this opportunity that in the neighborhood that we are, it's a neighborhood that aims to change. So it's a great opportunity for us to prototype it there. It's called the District Central. So it's a lot of questions, and it's a lot of opportunity, but this is one of the project. It's 3 projects that we built on different knowledge. What I mean is that we did the first one during the pandemic. And the goal was to, in the pandemic, the community was there and they wanted to help, but they didn't have the chance because everybody was in their house. So we went to meet them and we create a project to test what if a Fab Lab could be linked with a distributed manufacturing. What if in the neighborhood we can all stick together and with the team that we create, we can create a real impact. So we create 35,000 face shield with the different manufacturer around and the community that was really, really strong. And a few years later, during the Fab 16s, we built on it, right? We said, okay, we tested for the neighborhood. What if we try to work with different material that it's lining in the territory, but it's aimed to trash, right? It's a little bit trash to gold. So can we take chairs in the neighborhood that was meant to trash and transform them into art pieces, functional art pieces? And then we did an action to sell those chairs to finance the design of a public bench, because the community of that space give us so much that maybe we can give it back, right? Maybe the community can participate in the transformation of the territory. So after the MDDI, the Master in Distributed Design, we had 2 ways, right? We can actually design a normal bench. I'm an industrial designer, so I could easily design a bench and we can create a bench and put it there. That's it. But we try to adopt and to put those knowledge of the MDDI and put it on the ground. So this public bench was transformed into a collaborative work. So we were 8 different stakeholders. Everybody was an expert in something. We had someone who is great in industrial design. We had someone that is great in machine. We have someone that is great in the wood, like ebenistery. And we had some people also that is just, people from the community that was just there to help. And it's really important, this different kind of roles, because they complete each other, right? If you have different kind of step, well, you have the between step. So somebody need to be there to adopt. So we designed this kind of bench all together during 2 weeks. It was like a challenge, let's say. And then an artist from Longueuil, so it's just below us. Well, he retake the design and he said, yes, of course, that is great, your design. I can retake this design, but I don't have the same material. So I'm going to adapt it to another kind of reality. So no problem. So you have at the bottom, I don't know if you see well, but it's 2 different kind of bench. I think I have it bigger. So this is the original bench that you see that it's colorful. And then the artist was taking, instead of having those kind of material, he take different kind of chairs and table, cut it in half, and then he do another kind of top. So it's the same design, but do with different kind of people and different kind of material, but it's following the path. So that was one of the project that was quite interesting. And we pitched it at the Fab City Awards. So we win the 3rd prize. So hopefully next year we're going to end up with another project that is very nice. But to conclude, it's a way of, when you do something in Fab Labs, you think it's just a space where you can do a little stuff, right? But when you apply a story behind it, or you apply a different collaboration, well, it can end up in something much more greater with a storytelling and a meaning behind it.
Thank you, Annie, I think you summed it up really good. So thank you so much for those last words. And following up with the showcasing of best practices and programs from the Fab City Global Initiative, we are now going to introduce you to, I don't know if Chirag's here in Namgal, were our previous hosts of the Fab Bhutan Challenge and also the Fab 23, and they'll give you their insights on those best practices. Namgal?
Hi everyone, my name is Namgal and I'm joined by Chirag. So how we've sorted this presentation out is that we'll talk about the work that we were doing with the lab, and then also our department that houses this lab, and then we'll go into how that kind of informed hosting Fab 23, and then the lessons and takeaways that we've had since then. So I think Chirag will start.
All right, thanks, Namgal. So hi everyone, especially to all the members that I see that you've been here to Bhutan before. So Namgal and I, we work with the Jim Namgal Wancha Super Fab Lab, which is named after our Crown Prince, who inaugurated the lab in 2002, the 4th of June. So it's just been 2 years of us who've been working to inspire the future of learning and creating. Next slide, please. Thanks. So we work with Druk Holding and Investments. It is the commercial arm of the government, meaning we hold and manage the wealth of the nation to ensure that there's a continuous supply of wealth for the Bhutanese people for all times to come. It's not just for now. And under Druk Holding and Investments, we work with the Department of Innovation and Technology. We like to call it the Innotech Department. And with Innotech, we also have the Jim Namgal Super Fab Lab along with DHI Research, Innovation, Venture Excellence, and Strategic Technology Planning. So all of us combined and then work very close together to create an innovation ecosystem in the country. And that's where the Fab City Stack, Fab Foundation have been really helpful in terms of assisting us in achieving these goals. So if you look at the end goal for us, we want to build a Bhutanese innovation and technology pathway. So historically, Bhutan, of course, once the industrial revolution started, once the globalization happened, we've always been, I'd say, the first-hand consumers. From your phones to your laptops to the furnitures that come into Bhutan, everything was imported via India, China, Europe, or the US. But then I think a major shift happened in 2019, just before the COVID, when there was a huge transformation that was under the guidance of His Majesty the King. And with that transformation, if we can move into the next slide. With that transformation, Innovation and Technology Department was formed. So all of the projects that you see here are very community-based. We focus a lot on resilience, a lot on green energy technology, sustainability. And just for your information, Bhutan has also come up with Mindfulness City, which is going to be a special administrative region, and it'll focus on sustainability with mindfulness. I'll share the link later. So all of these projects, we're working on Internet of Things, blockchain, artificial intelligence, digital fabrication, of course. And if you see the bottom part of the slide, we're working very closely with Sherry, Professor Neil and his team in terms of building some of these projects and bringing life to this project by leveraging the Super Fab Lab. So next slide. Yep. So this is historically, this is what happened. So 2017, first Fab Lab was established. Now it's called the Chego Fab Lab. And then 2019, we were established, our department. And then 2022, Jimnamgil Wanchu Super Fab Lab, along with 3 other labs, were formed in Bhutan. Yes, next slide, please. So yeah, as you can see a familiar face somewhere here. I think he's joined the call. So he's Koji Amada, and he's also helped us set up the CST Fab Lab in Bhutan, who was the chief advisor at an executive level. So on your right, you can see the current Prime Minister now, who inaugurated the lab with Professor Neil. And then to next slide, please. So yeah, then 2022, this is our Crown Prince with our former Prime Minister and the whole team, whereby the Jimnamgil Wanchu Super Fab Lab was inaugurated, and it also showed the change, that transformation that's coming into Bhutan, because there was never such a facility where we could conduct rapid prototyping as well as build machines that can go in a Fab Lab with some of the machines that we have at the Super Fab Lab. Then the next slide, please. All right. So if you look at Bhutan, I mean, if we talk about the Fab City full stack, so there are 7 layers to it, and we are still working. I think currently we're working on the 6th layer, which is like a bioregional strategy, applying those in terms of sharing your knowledge with the network inside Bhutan. And of course, we're also trying to do that globally, like right now. So with in between layer 6 and the final layer of the Fab City full stack. So if you look at the map of Bhutan, it's evenly distributed. So our population is just 777,000 roughly. And every person, I mean, somehow or the other has access to Fab Labs in Bhutan. So around 130,000, there's one Fab Lab, 430,000 people roughly. And if you look at the Fab Labs also, they're catered to different sets of individuals, community, and enthusiasts. For example, the Fab Lab in College of Natural Resource and Science in Punakha is mainly focused on biofabrication, whereas the Drukgyalpos Institute, it is a school that runs from, not from kindergarten, I think it's from grade 6 till high school. And then we have College of Science and Technology, which is an engineering college, and then JWPTI, now it's called the Triple TRC, and it caters to vocational training for power institutes. So that way we feel we have diverse sets of Fab Labs, even though we call it Fab Lab, but then all of the roles, responsibilities, objectives, and vision for all these Fab Labs are unique in their own ways. So yeah, with that, next slide, please. With the Jimnamgil Super Fab Lab, we emphasize a lot on to learn, create, and collaborate with others. We also function as an umbrella entity for all the Fab Labs, whereby we conduct a lot of meetups, share knowledge, share projects, collaborated with one another in online and in person. The next slide. Yep. So we also conduct a lot of community engaging programs, such as training teachers. We've trained more than 100 school teachers. We've trained more than 500 school students in terms of leveraging digital fabrication. And yeah, not just that, but we also assist them in innovating and prototyping their ideas into products. What's next? And maybe from here on, oh no, this is my slide. Okay. So with the National Day celebrations also, we hugely engage with different sets of people, starting from kids to elderly personnel from Bhutan. Yep. Next slide. Now I'll hand it over to Namgyal, who's been the main producer of the event, Fab 23 Bhutan. And yeah, I was just assisting her. So over to you, Namgyal. Thanks.
Thanks, Chirag. So I think I'll talk about how the event has kind of helped us move along some of like the work that Chirag's already said that we've done. So when we were given the opportunity to host Fab 23, I think we were very excited by the opportunity because we realized that it presented a lot of possibilities for us. I think you'll notice that because the Department of Innovation and Technology was already formed before the lab, a lot of what the lab meant for us was as a way of like helping us achieve our goal of creating that innovation ecosystem in Bhutan. But we also wanted, and we knew that through this Fab 23 program, we could potentially create a unique identity for the lab on its own outside of Innotech. And so with that in mind, we kind of started thinking about what Fab 23 would mean for us. So first off the bat, we obviously wanted to address the very unique Bhutanese issues. We wanted to leverage the global talent that comes with the Fab network. And so in addition to that, we were also thinking about all of the challenges and the issues that we faced as informed by our work as Innotech. And so one of the major challenges that we faced was that a lot of, even though we have projects that build solutions for communities in different parts of Bhutan, a lot of our capacity building programs, so the workshops that you saw, some of the engagement sessions with teachers and students, they're all restricted geographically to Thimphu, where we're based. And so we're not able to reach students and teachers outside in different communities across Bhutan. So we realized that Fab 23 might be a way to kind of help us overcome that challenge. Another thing that we realized was that there were a lot of different projects happening in Bhutan that were kind of targeting the same solutions, but they weren't really talking to each other. So we wondered if Fab 23 could be a platform for collaboration for those people that are working on those challenges. And so with that in mind, we came up with these 4 pillars. And so technology and economic opportunity, like Chirag mentioned, were already on the national agenda. But we realized that a lot of the work that we do in technology in Bhutan has been focused towards youth. And so, of course, we thought youth and education should be a big part of the event. Another thing that we realized was just by virtue of our focus on capacity building, we realized that community would be a big part of the event as well. And so with these pillars and goals in mind, we then started to think about what the event would look like. And so I think in our early discussions, we immediately knew we wanted to involve all of the other Fab Labs. We had all started around the same time, and I think at the time our goals were very similar. So we realized that we couldn't have a very comprehensive event without including the rest of the Fab Labs in this event. And so we started discussing about where we could include them potentially. And I think the first possible solution for us was the Fab City Challenge. And so when we were talking to Fab City, how they were describing the past challenges that were held and the goals of those challenges, we realized that aligned a lot to some of the programs that we had already conceptualized in the beginning of when we had first established the department. And so something that we came up with when we had first started the department was this program called the Grassroots Innovation Program, or GRIP for short. And so there we thought that in order to reach those communities that were currently being like left behind by our innovation interventions, we could potentially have innovators from Thimphu go to communities, rural communities, live there for a week or two, and then either come up with solutions to the problems that they saw there or come up with ways to scale up the solutions that they saw being implemented in those communities. And so when we talked to Fab City about what the Fab City Challenge was and essentially what the Fab Bhutan Challenge would become, we realized that there was a lot of alignment there. So we started to look at the different areas that the different Fab Labs were located in. And then we realized that that's how we would be able to incorporate those Fab Labs. And so what we ended up is with 5 very different and unique challenges. So the first picture you see is the CNR challenge. So I think that one was called the Interspecies Peace Negotiations. And so because Punakha is a very agricultural community, they decided to go with human-wildlife conflict as their issue. And so that was like the first challenge that came out of the Fab Bhutan challenge. The second picture you see is Fab Lab CST. And so they decided to target 2 different issues that they saw in their communities. One was aluminum waste, and the other was developing assistive technology. The third team was the team at TTTRC, so that's like the southernmost region of Bhutan, and they decided on subtropical monsoon versus sprouts. And that was a way for farmers to diversify their income during monsoon season, because typically during monsoon season, farmers in those areas couldn't grow a lot of their crops. The fourth photo here is the Jiminam Gawanchu Super Fab Lab, and so we realized a lot of the other Fab Labs were focused on more technical issues, and so we wanted to kind of bring creativity and arts into this. So we paired up with the Royal Textile Academy, which is a textile museum here in Bhutan, and also Fabric Academy, and we decided to do a weaving challenge. And then finally, the last picture that you see is the DGI Fab Lab. This is the Fab Lab in Paro, which is currently housed under a high school. And so their challenge was termed the aesthetics of water. And so they decided that they wanted to kind of help with the filtration process of the water. They had an issue where like the water was very muddy, no matter what treatment was applied to it. And so we kind of came up with these 5 very unique challenges. And I think it was the best thing was that this was very community informed. So a lot of these issues actually came from the Fab Labs that had been in those communities for the last 2 years now. So I think because of that, a lot of the solutions that came out of it was also very like well received. And then similarly, while we were discussing the Fab Bhutan challenge with the Fab City team, we started to realize that we could kind of implement this model in a smaller scale for students across Bhutan. So while we were doing the Fab Bhutan challenge, our team was also talking to the Ministry of Education in Bhutan. We started to think about how to incorporate all of these students across the country into Fab 23. And so what we came up with was the theme curriculum through fabrication. So we kind of floated an open challenge to these students to think about a Fab Lab, the machines that are in the Fab Lab, and then think about what help that would be to them in the classroom. So they all came up with different learning aids that they thought would help them learn better. I think we received 112 proposals from 50 or 60 different schools across the country. We hit every single district. Bhutan has 20 districts, except for 2. And so, unfortunately, we weren't able to shortlist all of them. But we did manage to shortlist a very diverse group of about 12 teams from different Dzongkhaks. And these teams worked with the Fab Labs ahead of the Fab Bhutan Challenge to develop their prototypes. So then we had each of the Fab Labs working with 3 Fab Student Challenge teams and then 1 Fab Bhutan Challenge team. And this is just a paper that came out of the Fab Bhutan Challenge. One of the economists that we previously worked with decided to kind of come up with a projection of the economic value of Fab Bhutan Challenge. And this has really helped us since then in actually proposing similar challenges and similar programs to run. Right. So then since Fab 23, I think there was a lot of learnings and a lot of key takeaways. Something that did come out of this is that the Future Fabrics challenge that was run out of the Jimnam Gawanchu Super Fab Lab has been still steadily progressing and working. Cheng Wangzum, who was leading it, is still working on talking to different stakeholders to kind of scale up the project. This is a picture of the MOU that we signed with the Royal Textile Academy. So since our collaboration as a challenge host for Fab Bhutan Challenge, we've now entered into an agreement where we're willing to become a shared Fab Academy node. So what that means is weavers that are currently tied to the Royal Textile Academy will be able to take Fab Academy course at the Jimnam Gawanchu Super Fab Lab. So that's something that we're now discussing or in discussion with the Fab Academy team, and that's, I think, something that's really exciting for Bhutan to kind of embrace both tradition and technology. Another thing that's come out of this is because our team was able to attend and talk to a lot of people that are currently working with assistive technology projects, including the Fab Lab CST team, we were able to start our own assistive technology project. So initially that started largely in part because Fab Lab Shinagawa so kindly shared with us their files for 3D printing assistive technology. So we started with first 3D printing assistive technology. We ended up getting requests for different kinds of solutions that stakeholders felt they needed. So this wheelchair hand drive is one of them. The writing aid on the first image is one of them. And because of the work that we were doing in assistive technology in Thimphu, we were able to then partner with ADB, JICA, and I think the Ministry of Education in Bhutan to come up with a makeathon that was centered around assistive technology. And so here again, because we realized that the Fab Network was very easy to engage during this time, we managed to pull in all of the different Fab Labs in Bhutan to come together for a 3-day program where we sat together and built assistive technology for different need knowers. Right. And then we've also been running different engagement sessions to kind of build on the momentum that we received during Fab. I think the biggest thing for us since Fab is that a lot more people are aware of what Super Fab Lab is outside of DHI and outside of Inatech. And so we've gotten a lot of requests from people that are not just interested in seeing the machines, but interested in seeing what the machines can do. So the first one that we're really excited about is we're working on a curriculum for monks in Bhutan so that they can come in and kind of learn about not just technology, but also get hands-on experience on what the machines at the lab can do. We've also had a lot of awareness sessions for private businesses. So we invite people that work in private businesses to come in and kind of see what kind of business solutions can be developed at the lab. All of the Fab Labs were super excited to work together during Fab 23. So we've kind of decided to come up with a yearly Fab Fest in Bhutan. So I think this year Fab Lab CST is taking the lead and the team is assistive technology. So it'll be like Fab 23, but on a smaller scale. And we're really excited to kind of develop that and develop the network as that grows. And then, of course, we've been working with students. We not only work with Bhutanese students, but because of the Fab Network, we've been able to engage with students that work in makerspaces and Fab Labs across different universities. So they actually come to Bhutan and help us teach how to use the machines to the different students here. Right. And so because of all of the impact that the Super Fab Lab has brought, we're now looking at the kind of role that it has in creating that tech-based innovation ecosystem. And so I think between SFL and between Inatech, we're looking mainly to engage with innovators, but we're also looking to engage with academia and universities here to kind of not only bring in R&D, but also kind of skill develop. So I think just by the impact of Fab 23, we've been able to kind of carve out a space for the Super Fab Lab in the innovation ecosystem. I think that was my last slide. This is a picture from Fab 23. Thank you very much. I'll pass it back to Norella.
Thank you, Naungal. I think she could not say it better. Basically, a great experience to encounter. And I think for those who will be joining in Mexico, we'll have a different iteration of what happened in Bhutan. So thank you so much, Naungal. And now moving along with our third and final of showcasing best practices and programs, speaker is Frida, and she will be showcasing participants in the Make EU project, and she works also for the Fab Foundation. Frida?
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Thank you. So thanks, Norella. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to highlight one of Fab City's projects. My name is Frida, and I'm from the African European Maker Innovation Ecosystem Project, also known as the MID project. So today I would give an overview of the project. I will highlight some of the resources and opportunities within the project, and also set the tone for potential collaborations from one part. So the MAKE project is a 3-year project, and I would share some basis for the reason for the project. So In 2020, as we all recall, the world faced a global pandemic. And one of the things it demonstrated was that we could live locally and still be connected globally. And also one of the things it demonstrated was that makerspaces could be at the forefront of mediating crises such as the pandemic. And so we saw how makerspaces provided shields and other relevant medical supplies for local communities and also to support the health sector. And so in many countries, makerspaces became very integral to their technical infrastructure. But irrespective of this, the pandemic also highlighted some of the gaps that existed in maker communities, such as supply chain issues, as well as poor production facilities in some contexts. And so because of this, the MAKE project has been positioned to create the necessary infrastructure and resources to support makerspaces and maker communities to address such critical issues. But not only that, by supporting makerspaces, they can also be positioned as hubs for promoting local production in communities. And by so doing, we can also reduce the inefficiencies in some of the systems we have around supply chains, and also by saving the environment and reducing emissions from long transport of machineries and products that we don't even use sometimes. And ultimately, we can also empower citizens to solve their own problems while being globally connected. So one of the core facts about the project is that we are supporting makerspaces to be digital innovation hubs for local smart production, moving from the initial concept of mass production to a more decentralized manufacturing approach. So the efforts within the project are driven by African and European partners, and they facilitate connections between leading networks in Europe and Africa, making MAKE a network of networks. And partners come with extensive experience in the field of ecosystem building, network management, co-creation design processes, maker technologies, and are very well connected to maker communities and user communities, both in Africa and Europe. So you can see here the list of partners on the project. So in essence, MAKE is a transdisciplinary approach to connect European and African digital innovation hubs to maximize their potential as spaces for digital innovation, skill building, job creation, and as contact points for global collaborations. In the greater scope of things, we have an ambitious goal of connecting 70% of maker spaces and innovation spaces across Africa and Europe. And we are achieving this ambition by 5 approaches, and one of them is to support maker spaces come up with more commercial opportunities by offering mentoring services, mentoring activities, incubating and networking activities for maker spaces, connecting them to industry experts and other opportunities to support them become more sustainable. And then the second approach is to build a more sustainable community by strengthening the collaboration between maker spaces and policymakers, as well as other influential stakeholders. So we are initiating policy dialogues on how to better support digital innovation ecosystem, both in Africa and in Europe. And then thirdly, we are offering targeted training and skill building to maker spaces. The knowledge products that we are using in this approach is collaboratively designed by African and European maker spaces. And it's for the 2 regions and ultimately for the world as well. And then fourth, we are implementing and promoting systems for sharing skills, machinery, and contracts across maker spaces in Africa and in Europe. And finally, we are collectively creating sustainable networks that ensure that the results from the project are tangible and solve real-world problems. And so I would also highlight some of the distinct resources from the project. So there are 4 distinct parts within the project. The first one focusing on policy. And so within our policy efforts, we have documented 7 case studies on organizations and associations in Africa and in Europe who have worked towards contributing to policy implementation for maker communities in their country or in their region. And this report provides insights for makers on how to advocate for similar policies in their own communities. And additionally, we co-created a common policy agenda with 69 stakeholders from Africa and Europe. And the idea is that the policy agenda becomes a tool that anyone, any maker, innovator, enthusiast can use to engage policymakers on maker policies. And we believe that these approaches should help scale maker spaces to be nationally and regionally recognized as infrastructure for driving development. And secondly, on sustainability for maker spaces, we all know the persistent challenge of funding within the maker community. And so because of this, the MAKE project has developed an open catalog of business models to help maker spaces and use approaches that can make them more sustainable. And they can also delve into having more varied revenue and streams of revenue. And on sustainability, we're also implementing a venture building program targeted at makers within Africa and Europe, where they're going to get connected to industry experts and other great opportunities and skills that is relevant for making the work that we do more sustainable and scalable. On technical innovation, together with African and European partners, especially maker spaces, we are developing a map of machinery. And the idea is to help create more connections between makers, maker spaces, and networks in the 2 regions and in the world. And then secondly, also the skills mutual recognition standard report. It describes the development of a mutual recognition standard in order to issue digital maker passports that show the skills and experience levels of makers wherever they go. So it's an easier way to show the credibility of makers and also allow them to function in different makers other than the ones they belong to. And we are also developing some capacity building tools, and we are co-creating an open makerspace toolkit, and we'll facilitate some train-the-trainer activities for makerspace leaders, makerspace managers, and the maker community generally. And we're also developing an online database of educational resources and international. So all these resources, opportunities are all geared towards positioning maker spaces to become recognized as digital spaces where real-world problems can be solved, rather than just being spaces for hobbying. And over time, we've seen that the impact of maker spaces have transcended beyond personal interest and has become a place where people connect, collaborate, solve problems, and get empowered. And so one of the final resource I would want to share is the Knowledge Pail series, also known as the Make Talks. And in this series, we share more details on the resources. And I would recommend that if you would want more details on the Make project and to understand different ways to collaborate either on the policy front, either on the capacity building front, or on the technical innovation or sustainability for maker spaces, I would recommend viewing the knowledge series to assist in that. I'm also available to facilitate any connections with the projects directly. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll hand over to Norella.
Thank you, Frida. And I think, I don't know if we have any questions in the chat, but we're mostly running out of time. So I would definitely encourage you to contact Frida or Annie or Nabgal or Shirag if you are interested in any of the projects and programs that are taking place within the Fab City Network. And with that, I think I'll be closing it. Join us on Thursday that we will be having our second session for Fab Month. Remember that we will be having 9 sessions throughout the month with different topics, different speakers, and we will be having our session on Thursday with Fab Crafts from crafters all over the world that are applying digital fabrication to their knowledge and supporting entrepreneurs and businesses within this context. So with that, I'll be closing it, and thank you so much for your time and for joining us today. I hope to see you in any of the other sessions that we have throughout the month and that you're interested. And if you're interested, we are welcome to join these initiatives that basically have been stand the test of time within the Fab Lab Network, that I think that is a remarkable accomplishment. So thank you so much and hope to see you soon, and bye-bye.